What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are staying safe and you've been doing well since the last time I posted. And since this video is going up the day after Thanksgiving, I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving and I hope your Christmas season goes well as well. Now, like I said, if you didn't see my announcements on Facebook and stuff like that on here, I'm starting a new series here that I've been thinking about doing for a little while now, but for one reason or the other, I never actually pulled the trigger on starting this series. And I'm going to call this series the HGAs. Now, you might be asking yourselves, what does HGA stand for? Well, I'm going to tell you. HGA in this case stands for Human Garbage Award. Now, in my opinion, when people are pieces of garbage, you have to call them out. Be like, look, this is a terrible person who did a terrible thing. They have no remorse. Whatever the case may be, you need to be like, look, this person is garbage for this situation. They're a piece of garbage. And I think I had the perfect first candidate to officially be the first person I am going to be dubbing a piece of human garbage. Now, I know I've already talked about people who qualify for this, like Philip Chisholm, Eric Smith, John List. We did the final 24 hours of Ted Bundy, so Ted Bundy certainly qualifies. But the first person I'm going to officially put on my list of human garbage is Susan Smith. Now, you guys have probably seen Susan Smith's name in the news recently because she just got denied parole. And I've been following this case for a while, and then I had totally forgotten she was eligible for parole until I saw that they had posted and filmed her entire parole hearing online, which doesn't happen in every case. You know, I know in the Eric Smith case, I told you guys about how I read the parole transcript, but they didn't film it. But they filmed and posted that entire thing online. So if you want to go, it's over here on YouTube. If you're interested in this case at all, I would definitely encourage you to watch that. Now, let me give you the brief broken down section of the timeline of events that led to her arrest and her imprisonment. Now, this isn't going to be super in-depth, so this will only take a minute. And I wrote this down just so I didn't get any of the dates and the times wrong on this, okay? October 25th, 1994, which I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't even born yet. Susan Smith claims to have been carjacked by a black man in like a ski cap toboggan. And then for the next 9 days, she goes on like the media circus, doing interviews from her home and stuff like that, begging and pleading for her children's safe return, all while her loving husband's next to her. So that entire time, she's doing as many interviews as she can. She's saying, in her Southern Belle accent, she's trying to put on, bring my babies back. She's fake crying. And the more she did these interviews, the more police were like, this story doesn't add up. You know, they're questioning her. They're like, she's not actually crying. She's fake crying. And they can tell David, her husband at the time, is completely broken and shell-shocked, and they're like, she's not acting like a woman who just was stopped at a red light, like she claims, and was carjacked and her children were taken from her. She's not acting right. So they started bringing her in for questioning. She failed multiple polygraph tests, and then 9 days later, on November 3rd, she gets arrested and charged with these two murders because she just breaks down and confessed because she liked talking, she liked the attention on herself, but she just broke down. Apparently she couldn't handle it. She liked the attention, but it was too much attention for her, and she broke down and confessed. Now, I call this a partial confession because she said what she did, but she didn't say why she did it. And I always view those as like partial confessions. But like, yeah, you told us that you did X, Y, and Z, but you didn't tell us why, and that's still a big reason as to why this thing happened in the first place. So I always call confessions like those partial confessions. I don't know if there's a legal term for that, but that's what I'm calling them. I'm calling them partial confessions because you kind of told us what happened, but not really, you know what I mean? So she gets arrested on November 3rd. Her trial starts July 19th, 1995. Now, I was born in 1995, and I was only a few months old when this trial begins. Now, this trial is a media circus like you can imagine. I mean, OJ's going on, the media descends on this town, and there's coverage out the wazoo because there's this young white lady who tried to blame some random black guy for kidnapping your kids, and this caused a big problem in the community, you know, as far as racially speaking, because a lot of people, like, she was blaming black guys. She had to be racist. You know, why was she blaming someone for something she didn't do? Now, I don't think it was racial on her part, like she hated, like she was a racist. I could be wrong here. I just think that was the only thing she could think to blame. That was the only story she came up with, because this was a premeditated event in my opinion, but she didn't really think far enough ahead to really come up with a better story than some random black guy took my car and drove off with it. That's just a terrible story as far as an awful premeditated event goes. She didn't really think her stories through far enough, at least in my opinion. So the trial starts on the 19th, and then this is, as far as a trial like this, in my opinion, this is a pretty quick trial, because we've seen trials like this go on for months and even years sometimes, with continuances and lawyers chucking in and trying to legally maneuver and all that type of stuff. But the trial ends only less than 10 days later on the 28th, and she gets convicted. Now, the jury had some questions about what they could convict her of as far as what life meant, because they were assuming that life, because they wanted to give her life or death or the death penalty. Well, rather, the prosecution wanted to give her the death penalty, if I can speak correctly. But the jury wanted to spare her life because they thought that giving her life was the worst punishment. So basically having to make her sit there day after day, month after month, year after year, decade after decade, thinking about what she did to those kids. They thought that was the greater punishment than giving her the death penalty. And there were certain people in the backgrounds politically that were trying to get the prosecution team to not give them the death penalty, to not seek the death penalty for Susan Smith. But they're like, no, if, you know, essentially if Susan Smith doesn't qualify for the death penalty, then who does? She strapped her kids, her 3-year-old and her 13-month-old, into those car seats in the back of her car. She disengaged the parking brake, watched it roll down into the lake. Now, she had plenty of time after she disengaged that parking brake to change her mind, to stop, to do this, but she didn't. She watched that car roll into the hill, and if I remember correctly, I believe the lights were left on in the car so she could actually watch those kids sink to the sink to the bottom. And that has to be the most terrifying way to go for those kids, because this mother who you love and trust, and you want to think your mom always wants to, or your mom or your dad, but your mom in this situation always wants the best for you, but your mom's your undoing. Now, she, like we just said, she gets essentially 30 to life, and she just came up for parole, and she just got denied. Now, I definitely, like I said at the beginning, I encourage you to watch that parole hearing, because I think it says a lot, because she's had 30 years to think about, you know, the crime and why she did what she did and all of that stuff, but she's sticking to the same story. She's sticking to, I don't know what I did. It's such a bad thing, but you can tell she's not clearly remorseful. She's doing the fake crocodile tears. She's doing all of that. And her lawyer, who at this parole hearing, who is not the brightest lawyer, in my opinion, from what I've seen, basically tries to blame the why she did what she did on seeing her father commit suicide when she was like 5 or 6 years old. And he basically says that's like the biggest factor in why she did what she did, which I don't believe. The prosecution doesn't believe. I don't know if her ex-husband David believes that particular story or not, but he's got more than enough to deal with as far as the fact that the mother of his children is the reason that his kids are dead. So I wouldn't worry about if I was David, why she did it, essentially, because I'm just like, she did this. This is such an awful thing. I don't even know if I could comprehend the whys behind what she did. You know what I mean? Maybe that's just me. Now, here's to my opinion and the prosecution's opinion as to what she did. And I actually tend to agree with the prosecution here. Essentially, she was trying to get rid of her old life. If she could have put David in that car, she would have. Her wedding album was in the car. Her wedding dress was in the car. Her kids were in the car. And then she pushed that car into the hill. And she wanted to be with her lover, this son of the business owner that she was working at. She was sleeping with the son. I also believe they said she was sleeping with his father too. I could be wrong on that, but I believe they said she was also sleeping with him. So she was sleeping with his father and son, but she wanted to be with the rich son. And they were like, hey, the guy's like, I don't want to be with you. You have kids. I don't want kids. He sent her a letter like a week before this crime happened and went like, look, I don't want to be with you. He also kind of called her boy crazy. He's like, move on, live your life. You know, I don't want this to be anything more than it was. We got to end this. And then a week later, this crime happens. And then 2 hours later, when she's pleading for her children's safe return, she's wearing a sweatshirt that her rich lover had given her. Now, I am not blaming this guy. I'm not blaming him at all. I want to make that clear. He was trying to end it. He was like, look, you have kids. I don't want kids. I'm trying to make that clear. Now, did he know she was married? I don't know. It was a small town. He most likely did. I don't know the state of what he knew about her life outside of the fact that he was sleeping with her. Now, she's going to be eligible every 2 years. She's going to keep coming up, but I don't think she's going to get out. She's never shown remorse. She tries to claim that she has, but she's never fully admitted the reason that she did this in the first place is because she wanted to be with her rich boyfriend. And those are my thoughts on Susan Smith. I think she is one of the perfect, if you can call that, candidates for being called, in my opinion, and I hope you guys agree with me here, a piece of human garbage. Now, let me know if you guys agree with me on this. Let me know who else you think belongs on this list. Let me know what other types of topics you want to see me cover. And until next time, have fun and stay safe.